Okay. All right, everybody. So welcome to our first inaugural Activism 101 Rise Up Stand Up free non-credit course. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Vincent Atandi, and I am a history professor at the Tacoma Park Silver Spring campus. I teach African American history and U.S. history, and I'm also the director of our Institute for Race Justice and Civic Engagement. And so I've been here about 9 years now, and as long as the Institute has been open, I've been trying to do something like this, and schedules and money and life and everything else gets in the way. So I'm glad that we're finally able to do this. And so when I wanted to put this together, the main reason is I have for so many years gotten students that will tell me that they want to do something, but they don't know what. I ask them, they want to help, they would say, but don't know how. And so not everybody is a seasoned activist or knows what it's like to be an activist or even knows where to begin. It's overwhelming, especially in the DMV area when there's so many groups that you can join and actions happening, you know, it's just a lot to take in. And then the other piece for me is, you know, not everybody has the same skill set. You know, we're focusing on art today. I have no artistic ability whatsoever. I can't draw a stick figure to save my life. I can't play a musical instrument to save my life. But some people really do have that gift. And then what can you do with it? And how do you give that back? And so that's where we're beginning today. And then the other two seminars are on organizing a campaign in a more general sense, and then how you can use your writing for activism as well. So the goal is to provide you guys with some actionable tools and training that you can take this, not on a specific campaign, but whatever you're passionate about, whatever cause you want to champion, you will now be equipped with those tools that you need. And a lot of the stuff that you're going to see today is not only interactive, we're going to be working with you, but there are things that you can then take with you, tangible, physical things that you can take with you. And so when I wanted to do this and I was thinking about who to go with and what activists and trainers to go with, it was kind of a no-brainer for me with going with Nadine Block and going with Beautiful Trouble. I can tell you from my experience as an activist most of my life, I rarely come across an activist that hasn't in some way, shape, or form been trained by Nadine. Or has come across her. That's just the reality of it. You say Nadine, oh yeah, Nadine, yeah. So it was a no-brainer for me to bring her in. And then I was thrilled to hear, Sarah, that you were coming in as well, not only for what you bring to the table as far as activism and experience, but I was, of course, born and raised in Syracuse, New York. I bleed orange. I spent so much of my life growing up on the Onondaga Reservation. That's where I learned to play lacrosse with all of my Native American friends. We're so close with the Iroquois Confederacy and friends I had in, you know, around Buffalo and Akwesasne, and you have Oneida. So that history for me is so near and dear to my heart. So to find out that you were up there fighting the good fight meant a lot to me, and I'm so stoked that you're here as well. So I'm going to turn it over to Nadine and to Sarah, who are going to be your primary trainers for the day. I'll kind of be on the back end working all of the shared screen stuff and all that kind of stuff that you guys will be using today. And then we will go from there. So I'm, again, thankful you guys are here. I hope you have a great time. I hope there's a lot that you can learn. Don't be bashful. Ask as many questions as possible. That's what we are all here for. At one point or another, we were all novices. None of us knew how to actually do this, and we had to learn at some point. So what better time than now to actually get going on this. So with that, I will turn it over to Nadine and Sarah.
Awesome.
Thank you so much. Welcome to each of you here today. And my name is Sarah Nahar, and as Vince mentioned, in Syracuse, New York today, which is part of the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, which I like to say is the original Confederacy, not the Southern one. And Nadine is also here. Will introduce herself in a bit. I'm a new trainer with the Beautiful Trouble Network. And before any other words, we want to start with words of gratitude and words of recognition. So most of you, is my understanding, related to Montgomery College, Tacoma Park campus. So that is on Piscataway and Noctocton or Anacostan land. And so just recognizing the past, present, and future elders of those communities and hoping that everything that we do today is to honor them and to give back And also, what's so interesting is when we do these Zoom meetings, it can feel like it's floating. But indeed, the huge servers that hold all the information and make this possible are also on Indigenous land, as far away from Tacoma Park as Nebraska, Oregon, Nevada. So just recognizing that we're relying on the resources of many places, and a lot of technology comes from Indigenous lands across the African continent, but particularly want to name Congo today, Democratic Republic of Congo, and the minerals that power these instruments from there. And so may we find ways through making beautiful trouble that we can share this planet and build deep repair and equity for all. So that's where we want to begin, in deep acknowledgement. And Nadine and I are motivated to do the work that we do because of what we have learned from Indigenous groups from all over the world. And we do this here in the United States because of their requests to return to the place where a lot of the policy comes from. So would like to begin with that, and I would also like to know just a little bit about you as well. So if it's possible, could you say your name, pronoun, and your connection to Montgomery College, just like if you're a student and what your year is, or your favorite class this semester, or if you're a professor. We will do bigger introductions in a breakout, and you can put that in the chat. And also, I do believe that we have time for a quick go around, and that can also be a great way to do just a mic check to make sure that everything is functional. So actually, if it's possible, then if you could go off of the shared screen and we can pull it back to that gallery view for the moment. I'll just go with who I see on my screen. So we'll go to Samantha, then Jenny.
Hi, my name is Samantha. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm a second year at Montgomery College.
Jenny, and then Mara.
Oh, Jenny. Oh,
can you hear me?
I wasn't sure if there was another Jenny because my view is not, it's a little slow today. I'm Jenny Walton. I'm the lab manager for the Visual and Performing Arts Department. So I'm staff at the Montgomery College Tacoma Park campus. Primarily sort of bouncing between K-Fritz mostly and the Performing Arts, Cultural Arts Center just across King Street. So.
Hi, my name is Mara Nalabantian. I'm a senior. I'm just taking art classes and history classes in Montgomery College the last couple of years. I don't know if you heard me. Okay.
Yes, we sure did. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Elhan and Angela.
Oh, hi, I'm Elhan, and this is my second year at Tacoma Park, Montgomery College. I am majoring in international studies, hopefully turn it over to at a university for international relations.
Hi, my name is Angela Lanier, and I'm not a student. I'm actually an instructional designer with Elite, which is our professional development department at MC. So I'm based on the Rockville campus. Well, pre-COVID, now I'm based at home. And I'm really interested in this topic. I'm not an artist per se, but I am a quilter. And I'm starting to look at more ways to use quilting as a form of activism and, you know, sharing my voice. So that's why I'm here.
Welcome. Rashani and then Roxana.
Hi, my name is Rashani. I'm a former Montgomery College student. I'm more so looking to train youth now that I'm a nanny, or educate youth on activism and how they can be small little activists in their own way. This is one of my little ones. So thank you for having me.
Welcome. Roxana and then Cal.
Hi, my name is Roxana. This is my freshman year. It's my first year at MC, and I want to work with kids in the mental health field, so I feel like it's very good for me, you know, to get informed about what's going on today and ways I can help out.
Cal and Kimberly.
Hi, I'm Kimberly. Oh, there's another Kimberly. Sorry. This is Kimberly Jones. I'm the Director of Student Life at PSS. Nice to meet you all.
Thanks. Back to you, Cal.
I'm a second year at Montgomery College, and I'm normally in Rockville because of my mind. I was lucky I can take after American history class as well.
Thanks. Anastasia?
I was muted. Hi, my name is Anastasia. I'm a communications major at MC, and I'm graduating next May.
Batalam?
I'm sorry?
Yeah, thank you so much, Anastasia. Good luck.
Thank you.
Correct.
Batalam.
My name is Bethlehem and I'm a public health major. This is my first year in MC.
Bryant, and then Ephraim.
Hello, my name is Brian Gonzalez. This is my second year at MC, and my major is biology, and I'm here to learn more about activism and stuff.
Good morning, guys. My name is Ephraim Ahano. I'm currently in my second year at MC, and I'm currently majoring in community health.
Welcome. Jahalez, and then Ebtisam.
Hi, my name is Yalez. My pronouns are they, them, theirs. I'm actually a high school senior in Columbus, Ohio, but I have a relative who works at Montgomery. And I consider myself an artist and an activist, and I would love to learn how to smash those two together.
Welcome.
Okay, hi. My name is Ibtisam Abdelaziz. I am an artist and a writer. I'm joining because I am an artist in residence. I moved to America around maybe 7 or 6 years ago. I definitely dealt with some social issues, justice, and equality, but I'm learning a lot from being in America, and I'm definitely interested in the subject. Thank you.
Welcome. Nadine Hales and Emily.
Hi, I'm Nadine Hales. I'm with the Adult ESOL Literacy and GED program based in Wheaton, part of Montgomery College. And I'm here because I just became a part of the marketing group for my daughter's high school program for her PTA. And so I have an interest in, learning how to become a better or more involved parent, as well as, community member where activism is concerned.
Welcome.
Hey guys, my name's Emily. I'm a second year student at MC. I'm hoping to start at UMBC in the spring to get my social work degree. And my favorite classes this semester, I would say, are art and my philosophy class, which is morality and contemporary law.
Thank you. Kimberly Robinson, and then Ash.
Hi, I'm Kimberly Robinson. I'm staff over in the Adult ESOL Literacy Grant Program. I'm their operations coordinator, so kind of like, I think it was Jesse, I can't remember who it was, the one that does the art stuff. Let me go back and look at all these pictures here. Jenny. I pretty much do the same stuff she does, just in a different area. And I am not an artist, but interested in art, but I'm really interested in the intersection between the two and kind of how that works as far as different ways to express yourself and to express your concerns.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Ash. My pronouns are he and him. I'm graduating with community health this semester at MC, but I want to go back to nursing because I miss it. And I'm hoping to learn a lot from this course. I signed up for all three just so I can be a better activist in general.
Welcome, Dawit, and then Kimberly. Oh, yeah, Dawit, and then Maro. Is that also you down in the corner there? Nalabandian, that's the second one of you. Cool, no problem. Cool, so just to you, Dawit. Or Dawit. Is there anyone I skipped? Thank you all so much for taking the moment to come off mute if possible and to show your videos. That was really, really meaningful. So over to you, Nadine.
Thanks, Sarah. Glad to meet all of you and hear about your interests and your work. Hopefully we'll touch on something that really speaks to all of you. I'm calling in from Tacoma Park, where I live, the People's Republic of Tacoma Park. I am, some of you heard me say, I'm an alum of MC. I have a degree from MC in fine arts. Actually, I have an associate in fine arts, which I totally enjoyed getting in Tacoma Park. So I'm really glad to be here. I'm also an activist very much so, or in the DMV, the DC, Maryland, and Virginia world on all kinds of racial justice, political, environmental, and economic justice issues. Actively involved with Shutdown DC right now, which is majorly organizing around election scenarios. If you're interested in that, feel free to let me know. You can contact me about getting involved in local activities around things that are happening right now in the election action realm. So we're going to jump right into some things. So this session is going to be very interactive. And I've put in the chat box, again, some of you might have already seen this, the link to a Google Doc. If you're not able to access it, we will screen share it. But if you can access it, you have access to type in that document. We will be using that in a very interactive way during our session. And you can see Vincent has started screen sharing, and we'll do a really quick introduction. And so far, and also I'll just do one more housekeeping thing as part of our welcome. Most of you are already totally on top of it, but you know that if you're not speaking, it's a great idea to be on mute so that we don't interfere with other people who are speaking. And if possible, when you're in your breakout sessions, to have your video on so people can see you, that's always helpful. We understand if you cannot do that, that's totally fine. Also, when we get to our first breakout session, we're going to encourage those of you to, who didn't get to say hello in the first round, to greet your breakout session compatriots. So this is the agenda for today. We're doing our introductions, and we'll in a moment do an opening exercise. We're going to dive deep into creative actions from all over the world to inspire us and start us on the track to thinking about how we can integrate that creative basis for the work that we want to do in our own lives and on our own campus and our own nations. So, and then of course we'll do some closeout. This will be moving back and forth between a slide deck and breakouts and things like that. So I think we're going to do a small little interactive exercise. So those of you who can, get into the Google Doc that I put in the chat box. And take a look at this slide. I believe it's slide number 3. It says, what is your comfort level or experience with planning actions or being involved in actions? On the far left side, you can see it says, I never planned an action or event. I'm scared, I'm terrified, or maybe I've been to it once or twice. On the other side of that spectrum, you can see, oh, I do it all the time. I'm an expert at this. I teach others. You see that little pile on the bottom? Stars and moons and different shapes. You can click on those stars or shapes and move one to where you feel you are on that spectrum. So go ahead and get in the doc, pick your favorite star or moon or whatever it is, and drag it somewhere along that line. Above the line, there's white space to say whether or not you're someone who's been to many actions and planned many actions, whether you've been to nothing. That's the important part. I see people are excellent. People are right in there. So we've got people who don't have much experience. Do we have anybody who's really experienced in the group? Go ahead and put it there. If you've been to a few actions, you might end up in the middle of that slide. We're sharing it directly from this Google Doc, so you can see people actively participating. If we were in person, we would have you move around the room. So this is the next best thing. Excellent. We see all kinds of stuff happening. Great. So we have a spectrum of folks involved, and you have an understanding now of how this is working as an interactive element of our training today. Excellent. Great. So we have a lot of new folks. We're really glad you're here. And I will say this session is really going to be focused on exploring the universe of creative actions. Next session, we're going to talk a lot about thinking that goes behind those activities so that they're effective. And then we're going to dive into writing and other pieces of work like that in the third session. So we're glad you're here. Excellent. I'm going to pass it over to Sarah, and she's going to introduce our breakout sessions.
Fantastic. So by the Zoom magic, you'll be moved into breakouts, and they'll be about 8 minutes. And like, you can introduce yourself a little bit more, because part of what we do with this work is to get to know each other. And the more you know each other, the better you can like really kind of show up for one another. But the way you get to know each other here is like share examples of creative activism from your own experiences. And then after each of you have shared, so it'll be like 1 minute, pick one amongst you to share to the group. And the person with the closest birthday to today will be the person that's jotting a few notes, and then we'll report the one that your group picked. So we will send you little broadcast messages, but you're going to go into breakout groups, say hello, figure out who has the closest birthday to today, wish them a happy birthday, and then start describing some actions that you participated in or that you've seen or just heard about, and then pick one to share with the group.
Awesome. We'll see you back here in 8 minutes. If anyone needs help, let us know. Looks like everybody's going.
I was invited to go to 5, but I just clicked later.
Yeah, cool. I was invited to 3.
Oh, okay, that helps. Okay, cool.
It's just random, everybody gets invited.
All right. Oh, yeah. All right, welcome back.
Oh, I didn't even write anything.
That's okay. We're about to do it right now.
I'll
you are
just
not
listen.
behind.
I'll just listen. I'm terrible,
Yeah.
so I'll just listen.
All good. So the writing will happen now in real time as we share our stories. So can you just quick wave your hand if you were a birthday person? Okay, cool. We'll start with you, Jason, and then we'll go to the other groups. What is the one that you all want to share with the group?
Examples of creative activism. A big one that came up was the rallies that have been going on, the rallies and the protests around George Floyd, as well as all the many people that we remember. Other things have been through social media, whether that be art, and also how-tos, like how to vote.
Cool. That's good. I'll actually just pause you there, because we're just gonna take like little snippet. But thank you so much for recording. And who's my next birthday person? Wave your hand or come off mute and report for us. Is that you, Roxana? Saying.
Yeah, that's me.
All right, cool. What you got for another group?
We all talked about making signs for protests. And you know, I feel like that's a big part of it makes a big difference, you know, when people who come around and see what's going on, you know. I think it's a big sign. It's a good, you know.
Fantastic. Yes. Signs is related to action logic, where we're going after this. Elhan, is it almost your birthday? Are you a reporter?
I I'm not a reporter, but
okay, no, it's okay. You came off mute, so we're just looking for that person who is the reporter at the moment, and then we'll get back to everyone.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, we got into our group and we just started getting into very good topics that we didn't get to mention whose birthday was first.
Okay. Okay, so I guess maybe you are the reporter. Go ahead and give us one thing from your group. Just pick one creative action.
Oh, well, I know Mara mentioned something about a woman's group that we were thinking. She said she makes quilts. She made quilts for protesters at one point. Am I correct, Mara? Correct me if I'm wrong. But yeah, that was.
I only did it one. I don't quilt, but I had cut felt and everything, and with a big one, so a sign, you know. I made that, and that was an art project. So I'll see what happens with this other women's group that are more active type of thing. So I'll see what happens.
Wonderful. I hope it works out. And of course, Angela's on the phone, on the line too. So I was talking about quilts. So there could be some joint action happening here. Kimberly, your hand is up. You might be our birthday person reporter.
Well, I am, but I also thought I'd give Angela a break. She was in our group, so she did all the talking because the rest of us haven't done anything. But as you guessed, she had a quilt that she was working on based on the George Floyd situation and how life has gone since then. And as she was working on the quilt and following some folks on Instagram, there was an opportunity to have her quilt entered into in a museum. I don't know what the proper terminology is, but
yeah, it's a juried exhibit for a museum. Yeah.
She actually got her quilt accepted. And so, you know, it kind of was her own personal way of activism and expression. And what I really like that she talked about is, and I'm kind of the same way, more of a quiet person, not really go out and do those physical active things. So this is kind of another way to express yourself, which is kind of why I got interested in this topic.
Wonderful.
Quiet and soft, but at the same time strong. So
yeah, there are many ways. Right. We want to make sure to get to those. So 2 more groups to report out any one thing that they talked about. So 2 more folks. Maybe it isn't your birthday, but you were reporting. Or if you notice that your group is not yet represented, please, someone represent. Right. Cool, and welcome if you're also just joining. We'll add one more that we talked about a little bit earlier. In our group talked about assembling people together outside of an Air Force base and holding ground to ground the fighter jets. That happens up here in Syracuse. Anyone else? Yeah, one more, hopefully one more group.
I don't think.
All right.
I don't think my group is on there as yet. We didn't get to talk very much, but something that just popped into my head is
I couldn't hear you, so just tell us what popped into your head again.
In the Black Lives Matters t-shirts that I've been seeing everywhere, as well as infographics about racial inequality as well as injustices.
Thank you so much. And
welcome.
Yeah. And although your audio was cutting out a bit, we were able to get that, and it is represented in the slide deck. So now we're going to go even deeper, and Nadine's going to take us in with a lot of images and creative ways to show up with art and activism.
Yeah, really exciting. Thank you all for opening up and sharing with each other. Now I'm going to actually share my screen, and we will jump into a deep dive of the Beautiful Trouble slide deck in just a minute. Hopefully that will open. And it will be a really quick view for you. We're going to do an introduction of Beautiful Trouble, and then we're going to jump into many, many examples of creative activism. So Sarah, give me a high sign if you can see my screen and it looks okay. It does. Excellent. All right. So here we go. We're going to do a big run through of the Beautiful Trouble Activism 101 Rise Up, Stand Up slideshow. And here we go. So just to introduce you very quickly to the Beautiful Trouble universe, we have incredible resources available online. And those of you who are already interested in arts and activism, you will love this. We've got 2 websites right now, Beautiful Trouble and Beautiful Rising, which focuses on the Global South. They're available in many languages. They will be merged into one website, perhaps within the next month. We have a chatbot feature so that you don't actually even have to have good data streaming to be able to download things. We have a free study guide. We have provided trainings and jam sessions all over the world. We have an international collection of trainers and writers and artists and organizers. And we have a very exciting new tool called the Card Deck, which takes all of this knowledge and even makes it more accessible. Now, Beautiful Trouble starts off with people telling stories. And as you probably all know, they are incredibly powerful ways of educating people, connecting with people, moving them. But we don't stop there. We take those stories and we help people tease out the lessons that will be able to be used much more effectively because they have been pulled out of the stories in your particular context or location or framework. So we're going to look right now through the Beautiful Trouble lens of principles, tactics, some theories and methodologies about what makes effective activism. And in fact, we are going to, oops, is my slideshow going wild? Very exciting. Here we go. So we're gonna, I'm just gonna show you this. Oh goodness. Just 1 second, let's get it back on here. Great, so I'm going to, I think, hand it over to Sarah, who's gonna take us through a couple of slides, and we'll be back and forth in the slideshow to tell you all about these creative actions.
Sometimes when something happens, people say, we have to do something. We have to respond. And when a group of people wish to do something, sometimes it can be reactive. And when we do the work of art, as many of you know, it's contemplative, it's responsive, it's visionary. And so bringing art and activism together is really powerful because of the ways that it can bring these different aspects of life together. So when you say we have to do something, or what are we going to make, that's often talking about tactics and how it's going to get done. But an action starts long before the pieces become visible outside. It starts with strategy, goals, figuring out, well, what's happening in the situation? For what purpose will we do this? And what world do we want to see? All of these are parts of the triangle that you see here. And an action is at its strongest when it's built on a vision, mission, an assessment of what's going on, goals, and some strategy. And so everything that we will show you now is not just a community doing something. It's folks who've been working together for a while based on these things. And so we encourage you to think about, who is your crew? Who are the people who quilt alongside you? Who are the people who are in lab alongside you that you can start building together with, so you can be prepared to show up and to build on your theory with principles to the tactics that you want to see. Next slide. We'll talk about some of the principles first that are underneath a tactic or what you're going to implement. And a principle is an idea and a recognition of like a guide that can carry you. And so one principle that often guides activism is that a lot of people can't see it. They don't know what's up. You have to make them aware. At the same time, you want to move them to take action. So this is an example from COVID. Right now, we're showing that when Trump lies, people die. And you can say that. And you can even put it on a sign. But what happens when you bring body bags and you make a mock funeral? And mock means there's not a real person in the body bag. It means it is a dramatization of the violence. Or when, regular street, being able to paint on it makes visible the need to, in this case, protect Amazon workers, right? The height of the pandemic, they're considered essential. And so it's showing that we think people's work is essential, but not their health. What's that about? Making these tensions visible. In the next slide, we have making climate change visible. For many people, climate change, even if they believe it is happening, can be an abstract concept. So for folks in the Maldives, on the bottom left corner there, the minister in the Maldives said, you know what, I'm going to hold a press conference underwater because this is how we're going to have to hold our press conferences from here on out in 25 years when our islands are gone. So they literally held the press conference underwater. And speaking of underwater, the person pushing the chalk machine in the upper left corner is showing the high tide mark in Manhattan, where the water will come all the way up to as sea levels rise. And the third is those who are working with Extinction Rebellion in the UK, talking about the impact being visible underneath this lifeboat, showing how much will drown, how much will be impacted by putting their bodies there. And you can see they're locked down, and they are saying we're locked down here visibly so that you can see what is happening. So those are principles that guide, and those principles can take you to any number of tactics. Nadine will talk about another, making the invisible visible tactic now.
Yeah, and I just want to point out this Rebel for Life. Some of you might recognize it. That's actually Washington, D.C., right? It's K Street. The location of lots of decisions about that don't count people in what's happening in the climate crisis. So yeah, making the invisible visible is a core activist start point, because lots of times people don't see the problem and they can't do anything about it. This picture comes from Spain. It's a collective, a photography collective called En Medio, who talked to people who were made homeless by the bank's foreclosure policies. And instead of not being public about it, they went very public. They made posters and they posted the pictures of people who were made homeless by these banks on the banks themselves, making the invisible visible. Another classic thing is that we want to have many ways for people to join our activities. We want to make the most complicated things as simple to understand as possible. This is a picture of thousands of pairs of shoes. I think there's 7,500 in Norway to represent the number of people in the biggest refugee camp in Moria in Greece, so that people were taking action to support refugees and visualize it, as Sarah said. Another really interesting thing here is online solidarity. So we see in this moment of COVID that people are very concerned about continuing to take action, even if they're not going into the street. Early on this spring, this was a solidarity action for the Wet'suwet'en, Indigenous First Nation folks in Canada from who were supported by climate protectors everywhere. So you can see individuals made letters and a graphic designer put them together in a very powerful image. Go ahead, Sarah.
As we do this work, it's really important. Another principle is to take leadership from those who are most impacted. Although cultural influencers, jet setters, whoever might spread it, those who are impacted both by COVID, but also by what's happening with whatever type of activism, are the ones that we learn from and lead based on their experience. So remembering that triangle, that a vision and a mission should be set and in conversation with those who are most impacted by whatever happens on the decisions in your issue. Right here on the left side, you have a statement that says, "Quédate en casa," which is a message from, as you can see, first responders who are significantly impacted by people's choices of whether or not to go outside or not. As well, we have nurses and others who are like standing up and becoming visible in the midst of what's happening with COVID. And then in the third one, here is another principle, which is breakfast is persuasive. On this card, you have a picture of kids who've been just fed by the Black Panther breakfast program. And that breakfast program was, again, not just people saying, oh, folks need eggs, but they ask, why do folks need some breakfast? How? Where? What does it mean to us? All the parts of that triangle. And they realize that it's not only meeting the specific need, but inviting people to think about why this need is there in the first place. However, an action that just abstractly invites people to think about a need is not as persuasive as actually meeting the need itself. So here on the left-hand side, homeless folks who need homes went directly into those homes, so met the first need, but because they would not be protected or allowed to do so, a number of activists gathered to say and ask the question of authorities, why there's so many homeless people and so many empty homes. So it's pairing meeting a direct need with a question and an invitation for people to think about how they can shift to make the world they want to see. And you really don't have to be mad every time you activate. Joy is a revolutionary force. This is another principle, like a fundamental guidance and truth that we think is possible within our art. And so many people like living room DJs bringing it to you, or folks combating social isolation, as well as transphobia at the same time, and just bringing a lot of joy and love into our movements. Beautiful Trouble helps make the revolution irresistible.
It's awesome. Great. So we'll keep going. And of course, you know, if you don't get what you want from your authorities, from people who are in power, you might actually have to go get it yourself. So we call this direct action. On the bottom, you can see a picture of a statue going into the river in the UK, in Bristol. And at the top right, you can see an image clipped from the newspaper about the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone in Seattle, where people tried to establish a secure zone for people as opposed to those who are confronted every day by police brutality. So there are many forms of direct action and many ways that we can analyze the situation and figure out what we need to do to move the conversation. Another incredibly powerful form of action that combines putting in place the future that we want, the prefigurative world, if you will, with actually doing those things in the moment, are shown here in these two images. So the top image, you can see, are people that they look like they're sitting on grass. They're actually in a parking spot. So it's called a parking day action, where they've taken over parking spots to turn them from car places to people places. And it's a very fun international movement. The bottom picture you might recognize is from the KXL pipeline fight in the United States. And people built a solar-powered barn on the proposed path of the pipeline. So not only were they saying, we don't want this pipeline through our land, they were also saying, this is what we want instead, and we're going to use that to stop the wrong. So this is an incredibly powerful place to be when you can put those two things together. All right, we're gonna talk some more about theory. Action logic is an incredible theory to make sure that you incorporate into the work that you do. So when you look at this picture, you might recognize it as young students sitting at the lunch counter during the civil rights struggles in the United States. And if you were alive at this time, you knew exactly what was happening, that these young Black and white students were challenging unjust or immoral laws or way of being in the South, that it was unfair practices and sometimes law that people couldn't sit together, Black and white, at the lunch counters. And they were putting it in practice. They were showing, not just telling. And this picture told very clearly the story. And just to bring it up to date, I'm hoping some of you recognize this picture of Bree Newsom, who climbed up a flagpole in front of the state capitol to take down the Confederate flag, itself a symbol of racist and white supremacist culture that does not belong here in the state capitol, represented and making decisions. And this young Black woman climbed up, took this banner down, and the picture, again, is worth 1,000 words of what's happening and what needs to happen in our country to reclaim the place that will be most helpful to all of us to live. So we're going to keep going. I think, Sarah, would you like to take it from for this one?
Right, and so now we're on to tactics, sometimes the most visible aspect of activism. But again, these principles that we just showed around making the invisible visible, of thinking about simplicity and clarity, as well as a theory of what do we want to say, how do we want to say it, why does it matter, that kind of why does it matter piece. They come together for your tactics. And the tactic is like the way you do something. So in this sense, guerrilla projection. What this means is you have a small projector that creates an image a distance away onto a building, or a statue, a person, whatever it is. But it's a way, for example, if you're not allowed to, so like access to the building, and if you go up there, it'd be trespassing, such as the space that was created around the Richmond statue of Robert E. Lee or this public building in New York. You can be on other land and project your message all the way a number of meters away. So this is the tactic of guerrilla projection, built on the principle of making the invisible visible, and simple things can have grand results. Another tactic is culture jamming, using popular themes. Sports, football is very popular. Handmaid's Tale is a very popular show. And bringing the reality of that into, right, like smashing it together, jamming it up, changing, throwing a wrench in the system. You can think of it like that. The system's in motion, and this jams it. Altering the meaning of a target's messaging or brand. It packs critical messages into the media, and it's pretty subversive, and it's a way that marginalized ideas can spread by reappropriating artifacts that are drawn from popular media and injecting them with radical connotations. And this, particularly as it works with media, is incredibly powerful. Congressional hearings, as you have on the left or on the right, an Olympic medal ceremony, are moments where all the cameras are already on something. But these folks probably wrote a ton of letters to Condoleezza Rice. They probably wrote a lot of op-eds in the newspaper. Their words were not heeded, so they decided to go inside the chamber, and while she's talking, to hold up their hands to show the amount of Iraqi blood on them as a result of the US's insistent invasion of that country. Then on the right-hand side is 1968 Olympics, and it's in many ways a precursor to what we see with Colin Kaepernick and others. All three of those people on the podium together made the decision how they were going to be in that. So even though the white guy doesn't have his fist up, he was a part of the action too. And you can see he's wearing his button for human rights there on his top left shoulder. And they all worked together to decide how they would use that particular moment when all the cameras were on them to say that human rights matter and Black Lives Matter back in '68. Oh, cool. And there's more tactics. There's so many. So one more is called the cacerolazo, which is like when you take a casserole dish, but in Spanish, or a big pot or a pan, and you make a ton of noise. This has been used as most recently as COVID, and all the way back in the day when there was curfews in Argentina around not going out under the dictatorship. People came to their windows and banged all of the pots and pans. And so they were able to raise a ruckus without putting themselves in the line of danger or visible to the authorities.
Awesome.
Another tactic.
There's so much going on. So we're just hoping that you're getting inspired and have great ideas. So one of the very used tactics is petitions. And sometimes they're effective and sometimes they're not. But one thing that can make a big difference is thinking about how you deliver your petition. So if you just look at this, and this is a great action logic photo also. So if you look at this picture and you know nothing about what's happening, probably pretty quickly you can say this is about healthcare, because you see the stretcher, you see people in scrubs, you even see a drip happening, right? It looks like there's actually a body on that stretcher. And this comes from the UK. The National Health Service is what they were trying to defend. So a creative petition delivery will help your petition reach the right ears and mobilize people. One more thing we'll point out.
My earphone is low.
one more thing that I'll point out is a creative disruption, which can take many forms, right? Often we don't want to scream and yell at people. In fact, the better way to reach them is through humor, through doing something fun with art, quilting, who knows what it is, doing something on the street. In this particular example, I wanted to share with you the way that the K-pop fan base was mobilized to send videos in, and that basically took down the Dallas Police Force's app that was asking people to report on their neighbors. So instead of sending in videos of people doing so-called illegal things, people who were fans of K-pop sent in their fan videos to the point where the Dallas app had to be taken down. So this is a way to think about things online and using culture in a sort of a jamming kind of way as well. All right, one more thing I'll point out as a fun thing to do. There are all kinds of banners. You mentioned painting them at the beginning, but there are other kinds of banners. Both of these, the resist sign on the right and the sign on the left, is made with people, right? And it's a great way to bring people together, do something fun in this day and age when you can get a little drone, or perhaps if you're on a campus, you might be able to go high up in a building and take a picture looking down. It's pretty easy to do that. And then follow up with people later, bring them into your movement for more and more actions. If you don't have a lot of space like that, a small number of people can do either a very complicated action like hanging a banner off a crane, or this action that happened on the Statue of Liberty in New York, the Refugees Welcome banner, is so powerful, not because it's such a great size, but because it responded immediately to the moment of the refugee bans that were happening in the United States, calling us on our moral basis to accept people and recognize that our country is a country of immigrants. And this banner was put together by 4 people the night before. They painted it, they brought it up there, and they put it out. It was illegal. They did have to go through court cases. So you have to be careful to get good support when you do actions that are going to bring the full weight of the law down on you. But I just wanted to say this was a simple, relatively simple banner and a simple action with a small number of people that had an incredible impact at the time because of the location and the power in that location. So that is actually the end of our big slideshow. We will also share these links at the end, but if for those of you who want to stay in touch and get updates about creative actions, you can visit our Instagram. It's updated all the time. And there's, of course, all these resources in our toolkit online. So we're really happy that that's the case. I'm going to stop screen sharing and we're going to move on. We're going to take just a few minutes right now and we can go back to our slide deck from the participant slide deck. And you'll see that on slide 7, we have an opportunity for you either to type in yourself in one of the colorful boxes on slide 7 or 8, or you can put your hand up and we'll call on you, or you can actually write in the chat. So you have 3 ways. We'd love to hear what you're taking away from that slideshow. Was it a particular action that you liked? Was it a thought that came to you? Did you see something that you might want to do? Do you have some other ideas? We'd love to hear any of that. We'll take 3 to 5 comments, and then we're going to move off into a really creative moment. So feel free to type, if you'd like, into the colorful boxes. I see somebody's doing that. You can also type in the chat, and you, of course, can raise your hand, and we'll call on you. In the reaction box at the bottom, you can see you can either clap or put your thumbs up, and we'll call on you too. I don't see in my screen anybody with their hands up. I do see someone typing in the doc that says create murals on the MC campus. There's lots of ways to activate. And it's great to see the whole spectrum of potential action. And we just scratched the surface, right? Yep, composing songs. This is great. Does anybody want to say something orally, or are people happy to type? That's also fine. I see a hand from Mara. Yeah? You want to share something?
Yeah, I made a few notes.
Well, pick one.
One. I have a bunch. Well, first, I don't like things being destroyed. So we need people that are monitoring the demonstrations so that nothing gets destroyed, so that it gives a negative effect to the other party and everything. So it undoes everything. But what I like is, I mean, in Austria or Switzerland, they had like cow bales moving. You were talking about in Spain with the banging on the balconies. They were doing that. That's their country because they had lots of cows. So they were banging on the cow bales.
That's good. Stop right there. Go ahead and stop right there, because one of our learnings today is that we all bring so much to this work, and we're going to have a chance to share more in our small group.
All right.
So really, and also you opened a big discussion about property and property destruction, which we're not going to talk about today. We may get to it in another session, but I want to encourage people to understand that many folks in the world do not see property destruction as violence. Just want to make sure that that is acknowledged. It may not be tactically appropriate to do in many situations, and that's a conversation that is something that you'll have with the group that you organize with. We really encourage people to have groups to work with, and that's a perfect conversation to have in your group about your principles and your underlying theories of change. So we're really, thank you for bringing that in. We've got lots of great things in this slide deck, and we encourage people to continue to write if they'd like. However, we're now going to keep moving because we have some really fun collaborative work for you to do together. So if we go and look, if you could share slide number 9, we're going to start right there. We are going to do work together in small groups again. We're going to go to the same small groups. If you're new, you'll be added to a group. We are going to, as Sarah said, present you with the bigger pyramid of the work that you've done, a hypothetical campaign with a goal. The goal is no guns on campus. It's a hypothetical campus. The campaign objective, which means the piece of work that you're actually going to do within the bigger goal, is to stop the college from allowing campus security to carry guns. Now, this particular campus has allowed police officers to be security guards with the understanding that they would not carry guns. That's what the administration said. However, now the administration is deciding whether or not they're going to let them carry guns actually. So we want to hold the provost and the directors to their promise. We want to make sure that they don't allow guns on campus. We want campus to be safe, and we want to support student learning, not weapons for security guards. Just to give you 2 ideas about what your messaging might be. Now, if you go to slide number 10, here's how it's going to work. You're going to go into your breakout groups, and your breakout group, try to notice the number when you go into your breakout group. You'll be able to click through. Breakout group number 1, and I've prepared slides ahead of time. So this card deck is actually a physical card deck. And last night I picked one tactic, one strategy, one principle, and one theory for each of these slides. Each group will get one page that has 3 different cards on it. And you will use these cards as inspiration for your group's brainstorm. If you can use these cards, all 3 of them, in an idea that you come up with for a tactic, something to do, that's great. If you can only use 1 or 2 of them, that's totally understandable. I want to tell you one more thing before we split up. These cards are linked to websites. This little QR code in the bottom of the cards, for some of you, it will work if you hold your phone up. This QR code will let you go to the web page with more information. You don't need to do that to have a successful brainstorm session. But if you did want to have more information, it will be there. It's available in Spanish, Arabic, Portuguese, and English. That's one possibility. So when Vincent is ready, or maybe we'll take a moment in case anybody has a question, but you're going to go into your groups. It's going to be up to you to go to the different slides, and then you're going to brainstorm, what can you do for this No Guns on Campus campaign? How are you going to stop the college from allowing the security guards to carry guns and keep the campus safe for all? So if there are any, and you're going to have about, what did we say? I think 10 minutes in those breakout groups. And then we're going to come back, and again, someone will share one of your best ideas, or the idea that you decided to come up with inspired by the slide deck. So are there any questions? You can raise your hand if you have any questions, or we'll pop in and out. We'll try to check in on you. You can always message us when you're in your breakout groups.
The person who was the reporter before, the person whose closest birthday, you will continue to be the reporter unless you're reporter and the recorder. Unless you're not willing, then just quickly say that you're not willing, and then another person will volunteer. But then we will look forward to the creative ideas that you all have, and
we're good.
It'll work out. Have confidence. Here we go.
We'll see you in 10 minutes. And hear what each other has to say. And
Okay.
I'll turn it over to Sarah.
Fantastic. So if you are in the Google slideshow, you can feel free to type in your group's report back on any of those cards. Also, we have just a little bit of time to hear from any of the birthday people who are doing the reporting, or whoever is doing the reporting for your group. So if you're a reporter and share, please speak up now.
Okay, I'll go. This is Kimberly Robinson. We looked at the three and kind of eliminated what we thought, wasn't maybe 10 minutes worth. And a lot of our conversation was about the artistic vigil. And we talked about I think the one idea that was kind of cool, we talked about maybe a paper mache gun, and what comes out of that gun is a piece of paper with statistics of negative incidents or images that could happen if we use guns. So kind of an artistic piece of it, but also some important information of what that really looks like, because you got the image of the gun, but you've also got the image either in words or the picture of people coming out of it. And then the second thing we talked about was just training and how important it is as far as before you do anything. I think sometimes people don't realize how much planning goes into some of the things that you do, especially when you were talking in the presentation about protests. If it's legal, you got to have your team in place. You got to know whether to, teach your people not to react. So those are the two things we focused on.
Thank you so much for those. And Nadine has recorded them on the orange-ish Post-it note. Someone was writing there in the green Post-it note, started with the word education. You feel free to write that or to speak it out now. But great ideas, y'all. Paper mache gun, paper coming out, getting people trained for that. All right. No guns on campus.
So for our group, what we came up with was for artistic visual, as far as guns on campus, was maybe hold a visual on the Rockville campus, being that it's the biggest campus and it gets the most attraction. As far as training, we demanded, speaking of our demands, and basically letting them know that a lot of us students are in fear of guns, especially with people of law enforcement, specifically young students of color.
What does it look like? What does that vigil look like?
Basically just us on campus holding lights and colorful different lights, just to bring attraction. Yeah, being that most vigils are during late evening, I know afternoonish evening, so we were thinking that, and maybe hold colorful, not fire candles, but I don't know the specific ones, but they come in different colors, maybe spelling something out in those different lights, and bringing that attraction to it, as well as we spoke on the training of these officers on how to if there was a specific scenario, not to result to guns or any type of violence on any of us students.
Right.
As far as capitalism, we were connecting capitalism and police brutality, and we came up with the shooting of the University of Cincinnati with Samuel DeBoot. I don't know how to pronounce the last name, but that was something that we spoke of as well.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, well, way to like move in with all of these 3 cards and how they interact with one another. And one thing that we noticed from what you said, and we're going to go back into groups again and just do more of this to use even other cards. But you notice you were talking about training the officers. In this case, it'd be really important to keep in mind who is the audience and who is the decision maker as to what kind of action you're building. So while that training idea for the officers is interesting, as a group designing action, you would need to say that is separate. And what we need to do now is focus on the decision makers who are the provost and the directors. Even though every nonviolent action has more than one audience, because the general public is one as well, how can we influence the provost and the directors? What do they need to see around training? All right, cool.
I just have to leave, so I can't stay here any longer. Sorry. Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Yeah.
And you'll
Bye-bye.
get the recording.
Oh,
Cheers.
Okay. Well, all right. Bye-bye.
See you out there.
Bye.
Great.
Okay.
All right. So do we want to move on or hear one more? What do you think, Sarah? Do we have actually?
I will just, what I want to do is just invite everyone to take a huge breath in and fill your body mind with all like in-breath of creativity. And just to know that you're surrounded by all of these options. And there's so many ways to go with anything, so just that sense of abundance. And now I'm ready to try it again.
All right. So here we go. We're going to slide number 17. For any of you who had great ideas last time, please feel free to type them into slide number 16 anytime you want. There's plenty of space on slide 16 for you to type into those sticky notes. However, right now we're going to move on to slide number 17 with a second hypothetical situation. And what I want to emphasize this time, it sounds like last time we had 2 reports from groups that used the same slides. So I'm hoping that people use different slides this time in the different working groups, so we get a way to, I think, more broadly about all of the different theories and tactics and principles that could be involved in coming up with a creative action. So to introduce this second hypothetical situation, slide number 17, this one is about keeping the college a safe and welcoming place for all. We've heard that there's a white supremacist, a right-wing white supremacist who's supposed to have a speech on campus. They applied to do it, they got permission to do it, and student groups have decided that this is not something that they're interested in having on campus. They would like to stop the college from allowing white supremacists from having events on campus. They don't want hate speech on campus. They want to support student learning over hate speech, and they want to build the community, not build hate. So those are the framing pieces around the campaign and the goal. If you go to slide number 18, and when you get, you all probably know the number you're in now, but when you get an invite into a breakout group, it invites you to a particular number. So we're gonna encourage people to use different slides so that you can work with different cards. If for some reason you get the same slide as before, you can take a different set of 3 cards. So breakout group number 1 can use 20, et cetera, et cetera. And it looks like we skipped 19. So if you don't like the one you had, you can go and use 19. But otherwise, we'd like people to use different cards. So I'm assuming there's no, people are on track since you did such a good job last time. You'll do a good job this time. We will come back again and take and hear from a number of you as to what creative actions you came up with. And if you can, think about the integration, the sweet spot of where these principles, tactics, and theories might overlap. So if it's, you know, something that could be done that hits all of those prompts. If not, you can do one prompt as you've been doing. Great. Are we ready to go back into our groups for our last breakout session of the first part? Yeah? Here we go. We'll see you all in about 8 minutes.
All right, welcome back, everyone. Same type of discussion as last time. I want to give a shout out to some of the other ones that ended up being listed. And it was like students joining together, wearing the same color t-shirt, standing around the security office making noise, or having a die-in at the meeting time as it related to no guns on campus. And so let's see how tactics shift as a result of the target shifting, as well as the theories, principles, and tactics shifting. So we get to see the breadth. We already have a human banner spelling out something. Can't wait to see what, spelling out no to supremacy, no to hate, or no to hate. What else is coming up for you all as you thought about these theories, principles, and tactics, or other ones? We've got some playing music to drown out the speaker.
Ooh, nice.
I mean,
cool.
I'm sorry. No, I was mentioning what we came up with was basically having sort of, in the case of having the white supremacists hold the speech, maybe bringing in a marching band, just a marching band, or having, you know, with dancers with colorful LGBTQ shirts, or the marching band having Black Lives Matter shirts, or, you know, and various different people of different communities just showing up and singing and just being disruptive, you know, to not promote.
Yeah, which theory and principle and tactic were you working from?
We were thinking more of making the invisible visible, because not, you know.
That is a strong principle.
You know, for example, we even said, since we have a lot of young ladies on campus, that me personally, because I am Muslim as well, I don't have a hijab on, but a lot of young ladies, maybe have them come march with us, come with the marching band as well, just to show that particular white supremacists that, you know, we're not accepting hate here as a community. So many different people of us, and we get along, so why can't you get along with us, you know?
Sure. So what I want to draw out here is, is in the last part you were saying, we get along, why can't you get along, is actually the theory of framing. It's a frame around how we come together as people. So that is a theory that's powering the visibilization and making a creative way to deliver the information. So that's great. Piñatas. I'm wondering if the piñata idea was even inspired by the last paper mache idea. You can see how we're even building within this 1 hour time frame. But some sort of piñata with a Confederate flag or symbol of white supremacy and breaking it. And what comes out of it is lots of flags from different cultures that can be hung up by Montgomery College students representing their different backgrounds. That group, can you share what theory or principle you're working with as well as your tactic? You can write it right there on the green sticky note, or anyone in that group can come off mute and just say those few words. Just so we can get an idea of how the different things work together.
Hello.
Hi.
Yeah, so our thing with the cards was the action, logic, divestment, and use humor to undermine. So we're talking mostly about like the action, logic, and mostly showing like who we are and like how we don't support white supremacy, like just students like just representing themselves, kind of, you know.
Yes, and so when you have a visible of something hitting a piñata and destroying a symbol of white supremacy without even knowing what's going on or being informed that there was a speaker that day, someone will get it right away. And they will say they are not invested in this. In fact, we're Well, you literally divest the pinata and then move into something else while also being humorous. So that's another way. Powerful visual. Yes. Great. One more. Yes. Oh, we got some human banner ideas, things coming in the chat. Here's one to bring the issue up with the officials. Many groups on campus get involved, have another event to bring attention away from the white supremacist event. This is also a type of divestment move, divesting from that which we do not want to give energy to and reinvesting it elsewhere. That's a tactic and can be built on the principles of even joy as a revolutionary force, like making another joyful event. Aha, attending the meeting but turning your back on the speaker. This is one tactic of creative disruption that also will be a powerful image. One thing that you can see here is that the theory of prefigurative politics is not as strong as going to the event and turning your back on the speaker than having another event to show what it is we actually want to do. And that's okay that it's not as strong in that one, but understanding those small distinctions will help you within groups that you're organizing with and trying to make a decision about what it is you ultimately end up doing. And so when you as a group agree on a theory maybe or a principle, but have different tactics of showing up, it can help you say, okay, maybe we'll do that tactic this time, but let's still use this theory for another tactic another time, versus getting angry and a group splitting up because the tactics are different. So this is why we go deeper into both the triangle of mission, vision, direction, theory, principle, so that we can help our movement continue to grow, even if people choose different tactics. Anything else, Nadine, by way of wrapping up this aspect or final contribution?
It was really great to see and hear all of your ideas. Recognize that with just a very little bit of time and a couple of prompts and some inspiration from stories that you shared and that Sarah and I shared, you all came up with a really wide diversity of potential actions in 2 campaign scenarios. Imagine if you were an actual group and actually took some significant amount of time to plan something, you can really make things pop. So we are really encouraged always when we do this work, because we all have within us the seeds of creative, effective action and inspiration for each other. And so we're gonna move. We find that debriefing is really a powerful part of this work. I could, right now, if anybody wants to add any idea that came to you from either the first creative brainstorming or the second creative brainstorming, you can share it in the chat. You can write it in one of the blocks on slide number 25, or feel free to say it out loud if anybody wants to share something that came up that hasn't been spoken and you'd like to share. We have a minute for that before we do our full session debrief. Anybody want to share anything about an idea that came up that didn't get promoted? Well, we can sort of, oh, here's one coming from my namesake, Nadine. Cartoon submission in the school paper. Yeah, I love that, right? That's a great, another way to think about spreading the message, doing it with humor, and in a way that potentially is very low risk, potentially, for the person who puts it out, right? It's really important to think about that. Excellent. All right, so let's take a look. I think some of you are already in slide number 20. Which slide is this? 26, right? If you go to slide 26, this is where we get to hear what you think about the whole session. What are you taking away? It could be a word, it could be an idea, it could that you're going to work on later. It could be something that you want to know more about, a question that you're left with. So as usual, feel free to type into this Google Doc. Feel free to raise your hand or unmute and talk. And feel free to type into the chat. We'd love to hear from you about overall feedback or anything particular that you're taking away into the future, so that we can incorporate also some of your ideas and questions for future sessions, in our future sessions.
I wanted to ask a question and I don't know how quickly you would be able to answer this, but I watched a documentary the other day that talked about cancel culture, and how some protests where people are calling for get this person out, the person gets fired, something like that. And I just wanted to know in your work, like what were your thoughts or ideas or suggestions around the whole cancel culture movement?
You want to start, Sarah? Or do you want me to?
Go ahead.
Would you like to start and add an answer to that or share?
Again, I would take us back to that first triangle that thinks about mission, vision, values of what is the purpose. So a lot of the focus on removing a particular person from office is actually a structural critique about where within this structure does the power of decision making lie. And that's when it's at its strongest. It's when it's part of a larger understanding of structural power, and it has assessed that it is this person making these decisions. However, there's a significant distinction between an individual and the actions of a structure. And so we want to preserve the humanity of everyone by not canceling them as a human being. So that would be the kind of ground of nonviolence in our nonviolent direct action work. Thinking about ways that they could eventually, hopefully always be reincorporated. But a lot of those come, especially the ones around district attorneys and others, come out of a structural assessment that by getting a decision maker with an analysis about reducing oppression in that position, it helps to extend the goals and make a strategic move towards structural transformation.
Yeah, thank you for that. And I'll add, I want to add a little sort of a tangential piece about the calling out versus calling in within our own movements, if you will. One of our goals, and thank you, Sarah, for highlighting that we're talking about nonviolent forms of resistance. We're calling them people power or creative resistance, because a lot of the work that we do shows that it is more effective than violent resistance because it is open to more people to participate and builds a bigger base of involvement. And effective movements globally are movements that are bigger than ineffective movements, which are smaller. And so when we talk about building people power, the adjunct to doing the systems or structural assessment that Sarah's mentioning, and trying to figure out how that will build our collective power moving forward, the adjunct to that is thinking about how we call people in versus holding them accountable, and being able to call people in, keep them in, hold them accountable without exclude them from redemption or participation in the future, right? And so it's a huge piece of work along a big spectrum. So thank you for asking that. So I see there's lots of other great things being typed in here too about creativity and planning and
I want to hear that song about no guns on campus. I want to hear that.
That's really great. Anybody else want to chime in with a question or a thought that could about the whole session? A word that you're taking, something you're taking away. You can write it. You can say it. If you see Roman's driving, so maybe Roman isn't typing, but feel free to say something if you want.
I just want to say I thank you guys. I mean, I've always wanted to be, a part of, this art and activism, but I just never knew where and how to start. So I do appreciate you guys' time and letting us, open our eyes to it, because now I feel more confident that I could go out there and just talk to people and gather people who have the same thoughts and just not be bashful anymore about it.
Yay.
Wonderful,
okay, so,
wonderful.
And for those of you, and Elham, maybe you're one, on the next slide in here are ways to stay in touch with Beautiful Trouble. Mm-hmm. So that you do Instagram, or if you want to be on the email list, or if you want to just see us on Facebook. And of course, the website, beautifultrouble.org, is a good place to start. And there's resources to many other groups and organizations out there. And we will follow up and send resources and links and a recording of the session to you as well.
Thank you.
Well, one of my biggest takeaways is just I really love the card about I think it was called action logic. logic action. I don't know if I have it the other way around, and how it should be obvious, like what your action should be obvious. I think that's very powerful. And I thought of the example of Colin Kaepernick when he first started protesting. People didn't know why he was sitting originally. So it wasn't obvious. And then when it finally came out, look at what happened in the end. And I always, although I applaud him for speaking out and doing something, because look at what's happening now. I always wonder, like, I wonder what other way he could have done it so that we could have seen some of those results sooner. So not a criticism of him, but just pondering, like, what could have been done to possibly have a different outcome. So that was the example I thought of. So I like that idea of like the action, the logic, the planning that goes into it.
Yeah, and I'll just underline this, Angela, the importance of debriefing or of assessing what we've done so that we can learn and do it differently or better or in another way in the future is so critical. And we will touch upon that, and that it wasn't so obvious in our strategic pyramid perhaps, but there is a whole section of assessment, and it's not something that you do once and you're done, right? Because things change. Our personal situations change, as well as the global situations and the environment we're in. And so this has to be a constant culture of doing something, learning from it, doing something and learning from it. So really, thanks for bringing that up as part of our closing thoughts. We have, we're basically at the end of our time. I would invite everybody to unmute and say ciao, good day, whatever you'd like to say to each other. And
Good night, everyone.
I just want to jump in here real quick before we all end. I just want to thank you guys again for doing this for our students. I really truly appreciate it, and it doesn't end here. So we have 2 more seminars. October 16th we'll meet again with some new folks as well, and that will be the same time. It's a Friday at from 11 to 1. Registration is already up in the SurveyMonkey, and I will send you the link for it, and that will be for organizing a campaign. So we'll get more in the nuts and bolts of organizing a campaign. And then the last one for the semester will be on November 20th, and that will be focusing on your writing and activism, everything from how to lobby and writing letters and how poetry and what we can do with our and why it's important to learn how to be good writers. And then we'll, hopefully if the students want it, we'll deliver it, and we'll plan for the spring semester as well. Unfortunately, in the spring, we're also going to be online, but we'll make it work until we're eventually face-to-face. So I have the recording. If anybody has any questions or needs follow-up or any information, just email me directly, and I'm easy to find. I can get you anything that you guys need.
thank you all. Really nice to speak.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye, guys.
So much.
Thank
you. Take care.
Bye. Have a good weekend.
You too.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Bye. Thank you.
Hooray.